everyone, and welcome to Thorough Newspaper Analysis, which is brought to you by Losico. So today the analysis is mostly for today itself, that is 2nd November, because there was nothing significant for yesterday's newspaper. Though, as we know that we are now covering Saturday and Sunday and Monday both on the day of Monday. So these are the articles that we will be discussing today. The first one is from the Hindu, a secure future for platform workers. So herein we'll understand as to who are platform workers, what is the significant role that they play, and why do we need a completely secure future and a completely secure, in a way, recognition to these platform workers. Secondly, the nature of the republic, which is from the Indian Express, and it talks about the very nature of the French Republic or the country of France, and how theoretically it is different, but in the current scenario it is not being followed into the same spirit. And thirdly, an epidemic of over arrest. This is again from the Indian Express, and this is something which is very important to be discussed, wherein it talks about the overcrowding of the prisons in our country. As we know that this overcrowding has also led to huge spread of coronavirus amongst the inmates of the prison. And what are the problems dealt with this coming out of this? So we'll be discussing that. And fourthly, we have the news and flash column, wherein we'll be discussing the small and crisp news points. So if you're also preparing for a judicial services exam, then you can definitely have a look at our courses that we have for you. So we have the Lord of the courses, which is the judiciary test prep course. The link is there in the description box. You can click on it, view the landing page of this course, and can also download from there free study material for your own preparation. You can also have a look at the other courses that we have for CLAT, All India Bar Exam, SEBI, Judgment Writing, etc. So you can definitely try out these courses as well. So this is the multiple choice question for the day. D614G, recently seen in news, is first, an exoplanet, second, an asteroid, third, a COVID-19 mutation, or fourth, an indigenous missile. You can write down your answer in the comment section below. So this is the descriptive question for the day. It is not only the courts or police in India that need reforms, but also the prison administration needs to be overhauled. Discuss. With this, let's begin with the article, the first article for the day, which talks about the platform workers. Basically, as we know that recently, a few bills or codes were introduced for the labor law reforms, and one of those was the Code on Social Security Bill 2020. So basically, it has for the first time in the Indian law attempted to define platform work. Now, how has the platform work been defined in this bill, and what actually is the significance of platform work, we'll be discussing in this article. So here in this code, platform work means a work arrangement outside of a traditional employer-employee relationship in which organizations or individuals use an online platform to assess other organizations or individuals to solve specific platforms or to provide specific services or any such other activities which may be notified by the central government in the exchange of payment. So here are a few important points that this definition holds. First of all, it means a work arrangement that is outside a traditional employer-employee relationship, because obviously a normal general employer-employer relationship is definitely covered in the other codes and bills that we have for labor laws or the labor codes that we have, but it is something that is outside the purview of this traditional employer-employee relationship. Then the second point that is important is that it is a platform or it is a kind of employment in which the organizations or individuals use an online platform. Now, one thing that should be noted is that in 99% cases, there is use of an online platform, but it is not an absolute rule. If you would want to or try to Google out, so there are a few examples which do not use an extensively online platform for these services, but yet they come under the definition of platform work or the crowd employment, what it is also known as. So, but more or less, generally, it uses an online platform to access the other organizations or individual to solve specific problems. Now, by this specific problems, that is why we are many times we are using the term gig, or we also call it as gig work or gig economy. As you can see over here also, we'll be discussing this as well. So it refers to some specific jobs, some short term or for the time being some specific roles to be done, or to provide specific services or any such other activities which may be notified by the central government in exchange of payment. So then what would be the consideration that has to be paid in such kind of work? Will also be some kind of payment. So basically, it provides for this platform work provides for joint responsibility of the central government, platform aggregators, and workers. Like, of course, the central government, the platforms or the online platforms that actually provide for this service, the platform aggregators, and of course, the workers for basic welfare measures. But it does not provide the division of responsibility, which means that though it has been said that these three would be primarily responsible for, or will have a joint responsibility in providing welfare to the workers or the platform work. So who? Central government, platform aggregators, and workers. But the proportion to which each of them would be responsible as to what specific duty has been allotted to which specific area has not been defined clearly. Now, here are some criticisms that are attached to this new code. So, for failing to delineate it from gig work and unorganized work, so categorical clarification could ensure social security measures to the workers. Now, what has happened is that in this definition also you cannot really find the exact words like gig work or unorganized work used, and they've only used terms like for specific problem or specific services, so on and so forth. But the clear, inculcation or the clear involvement or inclusion of gig work or unorganized work has not been made. And it is said that had this categorical clarification or classification been made, it would have ensured greater social security measures to the workers. But now it might depend on the interpretation of this law, that many a times this gig workers or unorganized workers might not again be included in the platform workers, which would definitely defeat the very purpose of bringing in such a bill. And also it have been granted employee status. So there are also like areas or the places or states wherein, like in Ontario and in California, such people like the gig workers or the unorganized workers have also been granted the status of employee. And as we know that once a person has been given a status of employee, he becomes entitled to greater welfare schemes and services, and also he has better protection of his job, as well as better payment also in the terms of wages or salaries. And there are examples wherein such gig workers or unorganized workers, like in Ontario and California, have been provided the employee status. But in India, though we have tried to recognize and define the platform work and platform workers, we have still not recognized them as the employees. And that is why we might not be able to guarantee them the minimum wage and other welfare benefits that are available to the employees otherwise, and also propagated by international agencies in the European Union. So the same idea, like in the Ontario and California, is also propagated by the international agencies like the European Union, but India has still not, given this employee status to the gig workers. So why employee status is being demanded? So what is the basic reason, like why it is important and central that employee status should be given to such workers as well? So workers are largely dictated by mechanisms of control wired by algorithm. So basically here is a whole chain of events on which these workers are also dependent. So it might seem to be a very, freelancing kind of a job, or something that is very independent of any other agents or agencies. But that is not in reality the case, because these workers also are dependent on various kinds of market forces or various kinds of other rules and regulations, or availability of capital and other assets which are necessary for their work. Like for example, they have given a very good example here. Like if a worker wants to make an entry into an on demand platform, like for ride sharing or food delivery, like if somebody wants to become a food delivery person with any, like be it Zomato or Uber Eats or any such apps for that matter. So they are dependent on existing access to vehicular assets. So as you know that the vehicle that they use has to be their own, right? So it is not the company that actually provides them with the scooter or a bike or anything that they are using for that matter. So it has to be their own vehicle. Now, in such a scenario, if that person really wants to enter this area and he does not have vehicular asset, as in he does not own a particular vehicle, he will have to enter the platform, and he would have to need a loan for such schemes, like for buying a vehicle or something. And these loans would be again provided by the aggregators companies, and this makes them more vulnerable to exploitation, wherein maybe there is a chance that the loans would might be given at very high interest rates, or there might be some scrupulous terms and conditions of such loans, or providing other kinds of assets. So here there is a significant chance that these employees, as in, we have still not termed these them as employees, but these workers may be exploited in the name of providing of loan or other kind of assets. And that is why it is important that they are given the employee status, so that they can avail other benefits that are provided by the government, and other kind of schemes and welfare schemes also, which they are entitled to. So and why at all we need to do this, all this for the platform workers? Because they hold a very huge importance in the economy, and specifically if we talk about a kind of economy that India is, as they are responsible for delivery of essential services, and even during pandemic. And as you know, the entire norm of social distancing was followed, the physical distancing thing, and the people were not really moving out towards the markets. So many a times, like if you we know, in the initial days, in the initial months, this delivery system was entirely, it was shut down, more or less it was shut down. People were not ordering food from outside any area, and they were not even traveling using such things like, a ride, Uber ride or Ola and stuff like that. But now, since the time this lockdown has opened, people are actually relying on these things, and instead of traveling in some public transport, they are preferring that they take individual rides or something like that. So that is why they have ensured that the delivery of essential services is not interrupted even during the pandemic. And and it has actually helped to keep these companies that dealt with this platform work afloat, and even they have not been affected that badly as the other sides of our economic areas have been affected. So that is why platform workers have helped them a lot to sustain in this dire economic crisis as well. And also, it has played an important role as public infrastructure and sustaining demand driven aggregators. So that is why it is very important that we keep all these platform workers happy, secure, and safe. And that is why they should be given the status of employee and other benefits which other workers are entitled to. With this, let's discuss the second article for the day, which talks about French secularism and India. So the French president, we know, Macron, he paid tribute to Samuel Paty, and as we know, Samuel Paty was a teacher, middle school. He was a teacher who had been recently beheaded for drawing some cartoons or caricatures of Prophet Muhammad, and said that he was targeted because he embodied the Republic, taught pupils to become citizens, and fought for freedom and reason. So there, we have been discussing this also, by and large, that there has been now a complete crisis, in a way, religious crisis that is going on in France. And let's understand that what is the nature, the general nature of the French Republic. Now, if you remember, in your ninth standard, if you remember, we all had read the French Revolution of 1789. So, in that also, it was one of the biggest demands by the common people that the clergy, that is, the church and clergy and the other estates, the three estates that were prevalent, they should be completely separated, and the nobles or the clergy should not have any kind of, religious, due to religious factors, they should not be controlling the other affairs of the state. And since then, a separation of all the areas of the republic, then it was a monarchy, but still the areas of the state were demanded. And that too was followed later on, where in 1904 the republican law was passed, wherein article 1 and 2 provided for secularism, that France is a secularist state, a republic. And the former president Jacques Chirac commissioned an expert inquiry into secularism in practice, and through which they had the Stasi report, which was presented in 2003, and it gave some recommendations. And it stated that secularism is a cornerstone of the democracy, and Islam is believed to be incompatible with secularism, because it was, though it was highly criticized then, but the reason that Stasi report gave was that Islam, or some people, the Islamic extremists, they do not really want to accommodate with people. So see, it's not something that is a general rule or happens with everyone who follows Islam, but obviously we have some you know uh, what do we call them, like some kinds of factions of every particular religion who believes into different ideology. So that is why it was said that the people, or those Islamists who were there at that time in France, they were the ones who were not actually letting secularism to flourish well in the state. So then the new act came up, and it defined three essential principles of the state. Firstly, freedom of conscience, that is religion and individual. Secondly, equality in law for spiritual and religious belief, like the relationship between state and individual. And then the state views individuals as citizens and not the member of any religious group, like in India as well. And thirdly, neutrality of political power, that is state and religion. That is, the state and religion are two separate areas of human activity, and nowhere any interference between these two should be taking place. So, integrity of freedom of conscience and equality in law is largely determined by neutrality of political power. So it has been seen that if the power that is there in the rule, the political power, is neutral in nature, there tends to remain greater harmony in the state. But if the governing bodies, they themselves favor some kind of religious ideology or some particular religion, then there is a very high chance that the other religions are, they are biased, they're treated in a biased manner, or they're not treated properly. So it is very important that political neutrality in terms of religion should remain. So, secularism in democracies has been discussed. So, the rise of Christianity led to the problem of church and state. As Christianity, as a principle, it recognizes a basic duality. It says that the temporal and the spiritual should go all together. So, by temporal, we mean that something that we do now, the activities that we are concerned with doing today in this time, and spiritual is something that we do for the God in the long term or stuff like that. So, the Bible actually said that we need to move in a dual manner, and thus the very separation between the state and the religion that was going on till this date was, it started amalgamating and merging up, and that is why it became difficult for the state to keep religion as a separate tenant. And then in US, an attempt was made at complete separation between church and state. An American Constitution also contains no reference to God. And Article 6 states that no religious test shall ever be required for as qualification for any office. And India as well, we are completely a secular country, and we know that it was added through the 42nd Amendment 1976, which was a very very important amendment, and we became like explicitly we became a secular country. So even France, it did not fully separate church and state until 1905 law, but now since 2011 it has made efforts to do so. But in this scenario that is going on in the current time, it is very important that the state realizes that religion is completely a different thing, and it needs to be governed completely different in a separate manner, and should nowhere be shown like the political power should not be showing any kind of affiliations towards any particular religion. So this was an entire global comparison of secularism, or the idea of secularism, and that is why it is important to realize this very idea in the real sense. Now let's discuss the last article for the day, which talks about pandemic and repopulation of prisons. So last month, the Chief Justice of Delhi High Court refused to extend the court's blanket orders granting interim bail to inmates. So the Delhi's high-powered committee for decongestion of prisons directed a final 30-day extension on release. So basically, recently a report was brought through various prison administrations in different states, stating that the prisons over there were highly congested and they were overpopulated. We can take examples of Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Madhya Pradesh, and even Maharashtra. So these states have had huge for example, if a particular prison can accommodate 100 prisoners, the condition is that they're actually accommodating 180 to 190 prisoners. So that is almost just double of what the actual capacity of those prisons is. And in the times of COVID-19, when we know that this is a disease that can be congested through the other person, or it is it is a contagious disease. It spreads from person to person. So if so much of overcrowding is taking place in the prisons, the prisoner's life is also at stake. And many cases, in Delhi, you must have, if you're following the newspapers regularly, then many cases of COVID-19 deaths, as well as people have acquired COVID-19 virus as due to the overcrowding of the prisons in Delhi and other states as well. So let's understand. March 2020, prisons released convicts on emergency payroll and under trials on interim bail. So what happened was, that in the time of March, since they definitely realized that the prisons are overcrowded and we need to ease up the prisons, and we need to let go some people outside so that the inmates are not infected with the virus. So a few steps were taken for that matter, wherein the prisons, they had released the convicts on emergency payroll, and also various under trials were also released on interim bail, so that they remain in their homes or wherever, outside the prisons, and so the prisons are not congested badly. So the Delhi prison in October 2020, crowding was 155%, and if surrender is implemented, it would be 200%. So UP prison in September 2020, crowding stood at 79%, and if surrender was implemented, it would have been 200%. So similarly, there if had been steps had been these steps not been taken, so it would have become really difficult. But the trend that has now been seen, like past September, the month of September, that the prisons are getting too crowded again. So which again is raising the concern towards the same issue. So again, we said that the prison population increased during the pandemic of policing priorities were entirely misplaced and access to bail was significantly impaired. Now here we know that the two major reasons for overcrowding of prisons again, when there was a rise in the pandemic, was that firstly the police, actually we know it was already so much engaged into other law and order activities, that the priorities of the police were entirely misplaced, and they were just arresting the people and giving them to the prisons, arresting the people and sending them to the courts and then through the to the prisons. So, and if we talk about the courts as well, so their functioning was also halted significantly, and it took some time to get themselves equipped with the online or the virtual hearings, and that is why various bail applications, the bail hearings were postponed hugely. And the overcrowding during pandemic shows the failure of police, courts and prisons to work together in coherence, and the problem of over arrests and need to reform under trial prison population as well. So these are the two issues that we need to bring into our vision, that firstly the police, courts and prison administration should work all in coherence and with each other, and not just as individual bodies in silos, and the problem of over arrest should be dealt with, and also reforms should be made in the procedure to look into the under trial prisoners population, and as well we should make sure that these are not overcrowded as well. With this, let's see what is there in news and flash today. D614G mutation in coronavirus. So the novel coronavirus is undergoing many mutations, but one particular mutation, that is D614G, has become the dominant variation. Now, what we need to understand, first of all, that what do we actually mean by mutation? Basically, when a particular virus attacks the human body or any body, it replicates itself. It makes photocopies of its own self. But many a times some errors occur in such copying of the virus, and whenever this error occurs, a new kind of mutation, a new kind of see, chain A, chain B, chain C. So this actually is like the changes that take place in the copying of this virus, and such changes are called as mutation. So there are different kinds of mutations that are there in coronavirus, which actually is making it difficult for any kind of particular treatment or any particular drug to work on it. Because see, for example, if we have vaccine A, and it can actually fight the virus if it is in mutation of chain A. But if it is capable of changing itself into the mutation of chain B, this particular vaccine A would be futile, and it would not be able to stop the functioning or stop the working of chain B virus. And in the similar manner, if we have a vaccine that can work very well against chain B, but the virus is capable of changing itself into chain C, then again vaccine B will be incapable of functioning on chain C. So that is why it is very difficult to make a vaccine work if a virus has changing mutations, because a particular kind of vaccine is effective on a particular kind of mutation only. And the very thing that we are knowing now is that the D614G mutation is currently the most prevalent mutation that the coronavirus is taking in the human bodies. So we should take this into account, and it is on the spike protein. It basically forms a spike protein like this, and it is situated in the spike protein, and here is the location of the D614G. So what we need to know is what we mean by mutation, and what is D614G mutation. So this was all for today. We hope it was a good session for you. Thank you so much.